more disconcerting feeling of a disconnection from the words that always lived in her head. If she was honest, this lack of control over her writing frightened the life out of her. Although it hadn't been that many years since Kit had won her first proper publishing deal, she had since been lucky enough to have a short string of novels published. She sometimes felt life had been very much easier when she'd been a struggling writer of erotica. All she'd had to do back then was produce a couple of short stories a month for an American website. The ideas had never stopped, and if ever she got stuck over a particular story request, Peggy was always ready with a saucy suggestion. Those days were well and truly gone, and suddenly Kit missed their simplicity. Only once before had she felt this off-kilter. That had been when Amy first arrived in Richmond, innocently tipping Kit's relationship with Jack, their mutual friend and mutual ex-boyfriend, into total confusion. Not least because Jack, now happily gay, had never told Kit when they'd been together that he'd once loved another girl. It hadn't mattered that their own doomed relationship had been years before. Kit had found her always low self-confidence rocked to the extent where she began to doubt everything and everyone in her life. Still, Kit told herself as she sat a little straighter in her wooden chair, that's all history now. The situation between herself, Amy and Jack had felt insurmountable at the time, and yet it had worked out for the best in the end. And so will this. It's only writer's block, for goodness sake. It happens to every writer at some point. You're going to be fine. My goodness, woman, you look like the proverbial beach whale. Amy grinned at the teasing smile on her former boss's face. Thanks, Peggy. I know I can rely on you to be ready with a huge compliment. Huge is the word, and you are more than welcome. Taking advantage of a lull in custom, Peggy followed Amy to where Kit was working and pulled out a chair for her friend before sitting down herself. So how long have you got to go now? Only 2 months, which is nothing like as long as I need to get ready, or even get my head around what's happening to me. I have far too much to do before the baby comes, although we've almost finished decorating the nursery at last. I haven't even managed to find anyone to cover my job at Home Hunters yet. Amy thanked Megan, Pickwicks' chief waitress, as she delivered a tray of drinks and half a huge carrot cake for the 3 friends, before asking Kit, I don't suppose that lovely husband of yours fancies coming back to the business while I'm on maternity leave? Kit shook her head. Not a hope. It did cross my mind, after Phil gave up running Home Hunters, that he might have withdrawal symptoms and want to go back, but he took to running the bookshop like a duck to water. I can't see him ever going back. And he wouldn't have the time, to be honest. Did I tell you that they're so busy now? He and Rob have employed a guy to help them with their new educational courses at Kew. Amy beamed. No, you didn't. That's fantastic. I bet Jack would be thrilled for them if he was here. Suddenly pensive, she picked up her cup. I don't suppose either of you have heard from Jack. Peggy shook her head as Kit said, Not a word. I thought he'd keep in touch with you, though, Amy, even if he went quiet on the rest of us. Paul says he'll turn up eventually, but I'd rather like to be able to tell Jack about this little bundle. Amy patted her stomach. Before he or she stops being just a bump in my jumper, I might ask him if he wants to be godfather. Kit nodded. Jack is godfather to the twins, and although he's a dreadful role model on the morals front, both Thomas and Helena have always found him great fun, and say that having a gay godfather is, and I quote, well cool. Peggy had never understood the loyalty Jack's 2 ex-girlfriends felt for him, considering how appallingly he'd treated them both. She certainly wouldn't want anyone who'd stood her up on her wedding day, albeit only in the role of usher, to be a godparent to her child, but she simply asked, How long has he been AWOL for? Amy frowned. It must be more or less 4 years since I last saw him, and about 12 months since I last spoke to him. It's not so much being AWOL as missing in action. How about you, Kit? Peggy and Amy exchanged glances as they saw Kit staring blankly into her soup bowl-sized cup of black coffee. Kit, you with us? What? Oh, sorry, guys.